So first and foremost, hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to have you. My name is Josh. I am the Director of Solutions Consulting here at Ansira, where I help brands connect the dots between their marketing goals and the technology that makes them possible. Today, I have the privilege of introducing our topic and, more importantly, introducing our expert. So, as many of you know, customer journeys today are more fragmented than they've ever been before. Customers are engaging with brands across an expanding mix of platforms and devices, from AI assistants and dealer websites to social commerce and streaming platforms. For organizations that rely on channel and partner ecosystems, that complexity can make it increasingly difficult to measure what's actually working and turn data into meaningful action. So, in today's session, we'll explore a connected analytics approach that helps organizations start with measurement from their own customer touchpoints. Then you're going to take that and responsibly connect partner and third party data to build a more unified, actionable view of that performance. So, to walk us through that topic, I'm excited to introduce my colleague, Eric. He's the Vice President of Data Science and Analytics here at Ansira. Since joining in August of 2024, Eric has been focused on helping organizations unlock the power of data through analytics, AI, and insight-driven strategy. Today, Eric will share how organizations can build stronger measurement foundations, centralize their data, activate insights through prediction, and ultimately scale analytics in a way that grows with the business. So, Eric, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Josh. I couldn't be more excited to be here with you. We have a lot of things to go through, and I hope all of this content doesn't necessarily solve problems, but may even give you just some ideas of problems that you're having and help you resonate with them and point fingers to them so that you can describe what you're seeing and help you understand and interact with your analytics teams as you're executing your work. The conversation is extremely relevant right now because we're dealing with a level of fragmentation that is exponentially growing. The journey for our customer is becoming more fragmented than ever. Channel-driven organizations are being judged on outcomes that they can't even fully see. And most programs are still stuck in what I've heard called reporting by spreadsheets and sheer will, which tends to be fragile at best and inaccurate at worst. And you end up describing the past instead of guiding what you want to do next. This webinar is about helping us understand how we can build some accurate measurement touch points throughout our ecosystem, centralizing, defining that data, activating those insights through predictions and forecasts, scaling the teams that help create those products, and then some next steps, like how you might conduct an analytics audit, and also where the Ansira platform can help in that process.
Now, as we go through here, please feel free to throw any questions in the chat. Like we said, we want to make sure we address those as we go. And afterwards, because this will be a lot of information, we'll make sure that we send out a recording to the participants.
So let's talk about our modern ecosystem reality. AI has only accelerated something that was already happening, the fragmentation across not just different channels, but different modes of communicating with those channels, voice and chat and AI assistants, and even agent-to-agent conversation is accelerating that fragmentation. AI-influenced search influences what a prospect or a customer might do before they ever even see your website. And now we are also engaging through those channels with devices that are unfamiliar. No longer is it your phone or your laptop. It might be an Alexa, a Google Assistant, a Siri. It might be a pendant you wear, a watch you own. All of these devices create a wildly fragmented landscape, not just for engaging with end customers, but also engaging with your B2B partners and users. All of us are interacting with these platforms through these different screens and clouds and modes, and they tend to spawn new silos of data that can cause delayed insights when you need them most.
So no one wants that fragmented measurement, right? Like conflicting KPIs or delays. So as we go through all this, I guess the thing to kind of keep in mind is what those touch points mean specifically to us. Like, what do they mean? Uh, how we wish we had more insights, what those insights can do to empower overall. Is that fair to say, Eric?
Absolutely. And the research bears that out. 98% of Americans are switching between devices in the same day. 65% of consumers face retail inconsistencies between online and in store. 50% of customers use more than 4 touch points when buying. And then probably the punchline, more than half of businesses are struggling with fragmented customer data. It's just a reality that we are having to accept more data sources in and compute more analytics out to enable decisions across that landscape. And the prize to win is pretty large. Aberdeen Group describes it this way, that customers with a strong omni-channel customer engagement retain 89% of their customers, whereas those with weak strategies retain only 33%. So the prize at the end of the rainbow is quite significant, and the opportunities are quite significant. And so we need to reframe how we think through analytics in order to address this landscape. When we think about our histories in traditional analytics, let's call it, they tend to break down in this type of world. A lot of us rely on platform by platform measurement solutions with OEMs or manufacturers or brands relying on individual dealer or agent or retailer systems. Very often these are systems we don't own, and therefore we have limited input to them. And that doesn't work in this world that needs to change and provide not just a dashboard, but insight to, let's say, an LLM model that you're using locally in your enterprise. Static reports don't make sense. They tend to be a scrapbook more than an insight springboard. And they arrive after the decisions are already made. There's a lot of fragmentation also at the scale or the height of the data, what we're seeing at a local level, or maybe you might call it at the edge of your data, can be very different than the signals that a corporate or a centralized view sees. And so the patterns to be recognized are just different and not being consumed properly. What's the net effect? What we're having there is our traditional analytics feel more like a rearview mirror than a steering wheel to move our business forward. And again, the research bears this out. The data that we're looking for isn't present in the decisions we want to make. 77% of organizations report significant data quality issues affecting performance. 67% of organizations, 2/3, don't completely trust their own data. When they say data-driven decision-making is a top goal. And even at the highest levels, 2/3 of CEOs are still defaulting to intuition over data-driven insights. So there's a gulf there of intel and a gap in knowledge. And filling that gap right now seems to be intuition rather than data.
So, Eric, when you walk into a new client's ecosystem, what's the very first thing that you look at in their analytics setup?
Yeah, if I may go old school, very old school, because I don't spell meager that way. I don't know if you do, but we need to start with what you can measure. If you can measure what you are looking for and express it accurately, then you truly know something about it. But if you don't have the knowledge that you want. You have a meager and unsatisfactory kind, as Lord Kelvin might put it. That type of gap is foundational to all the others. And so that's really a place where we begin. If we think about the measurement connection that we're trying to make, we need to start with where we have control over that measurement. And analytics begins with measurement that you can trust clearly. It begins with your own touch points, These can be myriad, but some might be your brand sites, the partner portals that you host, campaign landing pages, co-op platforms, loyalty or service portals. These all are generating data for you. Typically, we're looking for certain user behaviors or certain sets of actions to occur. And if those actions are not being captured properly and counted properly, then what are we basing our decisions off of at the end? These can be extended out to many different marketing touch points that exist on all those screens we talked about earlier. But again, the foundational premise remains that we need to understand exactly what we are measuring, the activities, the user behaviors, and be certain that those are the actual moments we're counting. And these become the source of truth for all those conversions and those micro conversion moments before them, the partner engagement moments, and the customer identity signals that become the source of so many downstream insights. So this is where we start. We need to know what we are measuring, because if we don't, we're truly flying blind. Pilots know this. They not only are trained to not use what's outside their windshield in order to fly the plane properly, but even before they get off the ground, the flight check is looking at every single place where data is gathered, looking at all the sensors and tools for gathering that data, and ensuring that we know that what's going to show up in the cockpit is accurate to how the plane is really flying. I think Stephen Covey put it best, that we need to seek first to understand, then to be understood. And we do tend to flip that around, unfortunately. And that is one of the foundational places where we want to make our impact happen. So then, if we know what we're measuring with clarity and we have certainty about those touch points, we now can talk about the frameworks around those to harmonize those data points together, to bring them into a framework that describes these touch points to ourselves and to others. And then also the ability to monitor those touch points and establish some levels of what is reasonable, what is truth, what is benchmark across all of those touch points. So harmonizing those triggers is absolutely key. And some of you, most of you, probably are very familiar with this. There are lots of different labels for the same data points. And especially when we talk about terms like a lead, or terms like a conversion, or impressions, or reach, or if we even break it down and talk about a sales qualified lead or a marketing qualified lead, or let's say we talk about a prospect versus a customer. These are all very fraught terms. And what we use in describing those terms might be different. If you and I don't agree on what a lead truly means in terms of the customer or user behaviors that cause that individual to be labeled as a lead, if we have a disagreement about that, then how can we ever report on that and arrive at the same conclusions?
So that's a really good point. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that going back to what you said at the start of this, like harmonization and monitoring are absolutely key. So having that terminology connected, I see the importance there. So I don't mean to interrupt Eric, but I do want to also mention to the chat, like, how are you doing that today? Like, drop a sad face emoji if you see room for improvement around that, or a happy face if you think, like, I got this under control.
Yeah, I like to think of it as when I tell my kids I want them to clean their room. That's another term that's got a lot of meaning. And if we, let's say, don't agree on what clean your room means, then we will not be happy together. And we will not have the same reaction to the same outcomes, let's call it. But pulling it out of my family life, if we think about how that works across maybe your own family, if you will, of partners and third parties, if you can't be clear about what lead or what conversion or what reach or any of these terms means to you internally, how in the world are you going to describe that to a third party, to a partner, to a network of partners? And so it really becomes a moment where, as we define and create these definitions, we need to invite those partners into our community. After all, they are partners. They're helping us accomplish our end goals. And so it's not just a matter of our partners being able to execute against those definitions. They might even help us create those definitions and understand them better. There is always a level of boots on the ground intel that we need to understand in building those definitions so that we are able to say a lead is helping us accomplish a certain business goal. And if that definition doesn't help us, then maybe the definition is the problem, and we need to edit that. And then we need to communicate those clearly with our network of partners and platforms in order to enable those definitions to be consistent. So if we create, for example, a tagging pattern on a website where a user must accomplish these 5 behaviors in order to be considered a conversion, we need to share that in a playbook with examples to our other partners so that they know what they're driving towards and so that they know what they are generating to move our business forward. Analytics is not just about generating accurate data, although that's critically important. It's about communicating that accurate data, and not just in terms of the counts and the reports, but also describing what that data actually means. And playbooks are a great way to do this. And then if we feel that we have a solid definition of these terms and we have a shared accuracy and perspective on these terms, then we move into monitoring and maintaining those standards and thresholds. It is so important to understand what normal is. We talk about business as usual quite a bit in forecasting and modeling, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But in order to even be able to say how our business has changed, we need to know what normal is. And we need to know when our various KPIs vary from that normal and what degree of variation is acceptable. What does seasonality do to your business? What do certain cycles of supply chain or customer behavior do to your business? And how can we communicate that across our networks so that they know these numbers typically go up, these numbers typically go down. This is what's normal for our business, and therefore what you're doing may be causing incremental growth. And to go all the way down the rabbit hole, there are a vast number of solutions that will enable algorithmic detection of anomalies inside of your data. And these can come from a myriad of vendors, but they all can be very useful to at least say what abnormal is and to help you understand that moment before it becomes something out of control. The goal is to use this community and use these definitions to create fewer arguments about what the numbers mean and more discussion about what we ought to do after we see these numbers in making decisions about the actions we take next. So let's take an example of these two concepts in action. For one of our large tech SaaS clients, we host a partner marketing center. And that's a place where partners can come in and download or customize assets and get guides on how to execute marketing efforts against their new products or initiatives. And we particularly focused on clear instrumentation throughout the user experience of this platform, because we wanted to know, much like an urban planner architects a city, we want to know where users are going throughout this platform. Who is engaging? What are they like? What are they like by partner, region, tier? What are they using? What asset types, campaign themes, etc.? And how deeply do they engage after the login, after the page view, after the download? Where are they moving throughout this partner marketing center? And actually, those two concepts in concert were able to help us arrive at an insight, which is we were seeing users from a particular country downloading and interacting with assets that are not in what we expected to be their native language. So we in fact found users that were downloading or customizing assets for a suite of languages. And that enabled us to find this user group type that's kind of this marketing coordinator, this multi-market coordinator, that there are individuals acting on behalf of these partners that are kind of focal points for their marketing efforts. And therefore, they're coming to this partner marketing center and not just downloading the asset in English, but maybe also French, German, Portuguese. And so we know that we can interact with those users in a different way and even customize the partner marketing center for those users so that they're able to do their job faster, better, quicker, easier. This is what happens when your instrumentation is clear and your definitions are clear. It enables you to arrive at some insights without bickering about particular numbers and coming to some decisions that actually move your business forward.
So we want that data lake, but in this channel environment with dealers, agents, retailers, how do you avoid all that information, all that detail? How do you keep it from becoming like a data swamp?
Yeah. We have gone through so many structures of data so fast. We've gone from lakes to lake houses to swamps, and we have many different structures that are yet to come. But let's talk a little bit about that. You don't need to be a data engineer or a network engineer to understand and value and benefit from these concepts. And one of the main things you should understand is there's a real shift happening in the world of analytics that in some cases has already happened, but the future is distributed unevenly. And that is, we're probably all familiar with ETL, or extract, transform, and then load. I get the data from somewhere, I work on it somewhere, and I push it into somewhere else to be used. That used to be the way we all did data, but that's really changed dramatically. There used to be such a cost in storage and compute that we wanted to centralize that cost and handle it, quote unquote, offline in transformation before we ever loaded into a data warehouse. Now it's really becoming ELT. We extract, we load, then we transform. And this has really become what Gartner calls the backbone of the modern data stack. These processes are changing in that now, instead of focusing on what the data should be before we put it somewhere into a warehouse, our warehouse might have many stages of clarity. There might be some raw data coming in, and then it's processed in this more of an operational data store, all within the actual warehouse. And that gives us the ability to say, first rule is we put everything in the lake. We don't try to filter ourselves before we put data somewhere useful. We can put the data in a place that creates that use, and then we're not putting pre-filtering in that bakes in our biases. That's particularly valuable as we use AI to explore these data structures faster and faster and faster. The cost of understanding what data is in the lake has decreased rapidly. So therefore, if we're approaching this, having followed the steps ahead, we're approaching our lake with a shared set of definitions. And so we want to meet those definitions with a set of consistent queries. I think you all can understand that if you are pulling the data in different ways, you're going to get different results. And therefore, if I, as an analyst, am looking for leads and I pull it one way, and you, as an analyst, are looking for leads and pull it a different way, we will not have the same numbers. So therefore, we need to match up our shared definitions in the real world with the consistent queries in the data world. And building those into analytics views that are a set of Legos that we can move around. If we understand leads from a business perspective, we should understand it fully and consistently from a technical perspective and be able to be consistent about that. Then we can link across data sources to enable holistic pictures of that customer behavior. We're not limited to just transactions over here and web analytics over here and app analytics over here. Let's understand that customer more fully, and let's do it through our perspective of shared definition so that we're creating something holistic. If we want to think ahead about where this trend is going, and again, perhaps already there for some organizations, we're seeing this execution of what's called a data mesh. And this is a term coined by Zamak Dehghani in 2019. It's become much more clarified in 2026. But the tenets are this. Instead of creating one master data warehouse, we can decentralize that data to different business domains. And lots of tools enable that to be much easier to do. And then each business domain activates that data source as a product. This is something we already do. I'm sure all of you have spreadsheets that fly at you weekly or monthly from different departments. The accounting department puts out the accounts payable spreadsheet every so often, or the accounts receivable spreadsheet every so often. Sales puts out a pipeline spreadsheet every so often. We're already making data products. Let's do that at a data source level and actually share databases with each other rather than spreadsheets.
Let's just hope there's harmony across those spreadsheets so we're all speaking in the same terms and saying the same thing, right?
Precisely. How many times have we all done this where we are actually taking spreadsheet A and spreadsheet B and bringing them together? These are activities that don't need to happen anymore. And moreover, these prevent AI from exploring that data and understanding it. So if each business domain, accounting, supply chain, sales, marketing, if they each take ownership of their own data and provide that as products to each other, in the middle, there is some governance. And IT and security can have that say over how we provide that interoperability between those products. But if we serve these products up and think of ourselves as product owners and serve that to others, then it unlocks the ability for all of us to use these platforms that can easily chew through data and provide insight at the end user level. And so this is really where large enterprises are headed. There's a lot of distance between a technical reality and a business reality here, but it is a direction that I want to provide it as a North Star for where we're going. I want to also discuss briefly the concept of data lineage, because this has become more and more critical as well. As we have more tools to transform and understand data, again, powered by AI frequently, we need to know exactly where that data came from. There are all sorts of frameworks and platforms to enable this as well, some that are baked into those warehouses and compute stores that we mentioned earlier. But data lineage, as defined by Gartner, is knowing the specific data origin, movement of data over time, and context to the data as it moves through systems. This is particularly critical, again, with AI. AI needs to be able to know not just that this number says clicks, but this number came from certain places and inherits certain things. And so that enables our teams to better understand where that data is coming from and where that data is going. It also helps us know if we need to make changes. What are the upstream and downstream effects of those changes? And most importantly, if something breaks or changes or laws are implemented, what are the cascading effects upstream and downstream of those, so that we know when a change happens, what affects our data pipelines. A lot of organizations have hidden data lineages that are not transparently clear, and it's crucial to bring those to light so that you have knowledge, your AI models have knowledge, and so that change can be managed effectively. Specifically, those pipelines one of the buzzwords we hear now is a self-healing pipeline, which again can be enabled by AI. But if you have that lineage, you'll be able to understand how to heal and how to describe that healing process to an AI model to make any changes or fixes. You'll be able to track PII, which is becoming increasingly important as GDPR propagates, especially here to the States in different laws and regulations. And again, you'll be able to consistently give the AI model the definitions in a data perspective that it needs.
With those AI models, Eric, how much level of like human in the loop do you recommend to overlook that or oversee that?
It's constantly a thing that needs to be in process. No AI model is going to be consistent without having a human involved because we're going to have changes in definitions and changes in the model as it learns. And so we need to, again, constantly have that monitoring and that understanding of these definitions as our source of truth and as the source of truth that we hold our AI models to, so that we're consistently building on foundations that are strong. If we are able to maintain that foundation, we should be able to make a transition to talking about the future. And it's surprising how often we do not use these tools to move into something that forecasts where we're headed. I like to call it moving up the value chain, that we can get higher and higher in the strategic value of our data by not just saying what happened, but by predicting what might happen in the future and enabling us to make some better decisions. There's a lot of value in dashboards. And of course, they're critical to showing our data as it flows. But we need to recognize these are not the end. They are the beginning of the data-driven decision process. Again, if we're building on the steps described earlier, we are creating a connected data ecosystem with clarity in its lineage, clarity in its definitions, and clarity in its business impact. And that will enable us to build these products that describe our data as it moves forward. Probably the easiest way to do it is something I alluded to earlier, which is benchmarks, thresholds, and alerts. If you are able to know what normal is, and again, plenty of algorithms to help you do this, then you can have alerts tell you when something is changing and alert you before you ever get to the dashboard. You can have much more of a pull system than a push system of data. That also leads us to ask some interesting questions about if we know, for example, what leads are and we know when leads change, well, what caused that change? One of the easy ways to investigate that is segmenting the audiences involved in that change. Perhaps certain individuals, certain groups, certain behaviors, certain pipelines of data in your organization changed and influenced that. So if we segment different channel and partner audiences, for example, we're able to uncover what were the true drivers of the changes that we either wanted to see or didn't, and make some decisions about how we're going to affect them in the future. Some of my favorite tools are things like lead scoring. These are algorithms that actually have a lot of history in like credit card fraud, identifying behaviors to trigger an insight. And instead of triggering a need to shut off a credit card, we can now say, wow, those user behaviors look a lot like some of my ideal customers. Perhaps I need to treat this this prospect differently and engage with them differently. And it helps us develop what we might call those happy paths to move that customer and that prospect through a set of behaviors in order to achieve the outcome we want. We can also develop the financial models that let us play the what if game. Rather than using intuition to just roughly put a finger in the wind and guess where we're headed, these financial models can not only tell us what would happen if business as usual stayed the same, but also what might happen if we make specific changes. In fact, AI can be your friend here as well because it can permutate thousands of different changes that might be implemented and help you arrive at a combination of actions that push you to a better outcome than you might have even predicted before. Some areas where those levers might be could even be in your co-op structures. With co-op, you can pull different levers by incentivizing different things, incentivizing different outcomes, or even making some things easier or harder to do. And these enable you to change your outcome overall and your future to come to you. By building a financial model, you can play those out before they ever happen and see how they might affect your future in different ways and trade-offs. And again, the studies bear this out as well. 73% of customers expect brands to understand my needs before I ever reach out. And 70% of high performing organizations already use predictive analytics to guide those business decisions. Again, I would say that's distributed unevenly, and where those predictions are is not consistent. But if we've done our due diligence in the steps before to build the foundations we need, we are ready to create the forecasts that will guide our future for many years to come. So an example of this in action is showing up in one of our clients that's a national auto service company. We built an algorithm that takes a look at the data we have on that customer, not just their service history and how many campaigns they responded to, et cetera, but we can also know the year, make, model, and even engine of their vehicle. This enables us to take a look at channel and offer performance and actually build those service reminders into a cadence that looks for the moment they really need it, rather than the moment that's on the window sticker that we never looked at. So we can actually say we understand different vehicles, different users, different car owners in different ways and interact with them differently through these algorithms. And these enabled higher open rates, increased repeat visits, and even efficiency in channel messaging. If we expand that to more of a channel ecosystem, imagine the power of being able to provide these models to your partner ecosystem to communicate to them what we expect to happen or what the best actions might be. Being able to share that within your ecosystem creates more trust, it creates more value, and it moves your business forward.
So in a channel-driven organization or a channel-driven ecosystem, who actually makes this work day in and day out?
Yeah, we have to talk about the teams that are building these analytic products and guiding these business units in their analytic journey. And these teams are all varied and different as well, they should be. But what I wanted to highlight is that there really are two core roles of analytics. And this can be thought of more of as a spectrum, if you will. But in high performing ecosystems, we tend to see this over and over again. There's a role we might label the consultant, which is the people that are truly embedded with the end users, the programs, the channel, co-op, media, partner success teams. And so they understand those business outcomes. They understand the edge of that data intimately. And so they can connect that business context with that partner reality and frame up what is the problem? What is the solution? What are the analytics products? And even go so far as prototyping them. And then there's probably some other group of individuals that we might label the practitioners. And these are the people that tend to interact and interface more with data infrastructure, with your IT and technology teams. And they build out those pipelines, they maintain that governance, they provide clarity in those products so that you have shared definitions of outcomes and identity. These are the individuals that operationalize those analytics products to enable them in a reliable and repeatable way. And that can be a valuable role in and of itself, to not just take a prototype and get it stood up, make sure it works once, but also to make sure it works frequently and consistently over time. So what's important to understand is these analytics teams, whether they are labeled this overtly or not, have these different roles. And therefore, we should enable individuals within those teams to lean in to their respective roles. No one person can do anything, do everything. And in fact, we've found in our own teams that if you try to ask someone to be a consultant and a practitioner at the same time, it doesn't work well because it fragments their own business processes, their own attention, focus, and energy. So enable this differentiation, this diversity, and you'll see some of the benefits of that. Another focus is that within our own analytics team and within yours, we have to move from being the report builder people to truly becoming scientists and product managers. We call ourselves data scientists after all, and that's a fair label, but we need to really own it by asking questions in the form of hypotheses. The scientific method actually works, believe it or not, and it can be valuable for your organization. And then as an analytics team, we are not only the guardians of the data and the interpreters thereof, but I would say that we really own what our business knows. What is our knowledge as a business? We talk about this in the scientific community, that we as humanity have continually growing knowledge because individual scientists, individual teams are answering individual questions. The same goes for your business. As we grow over time, we're learning more and more, and therefore we are able to build our knowledge into a structure you might call a learning agenda or a test and learn plan. These are tools that enable you to say where your knowledge is and where your knowledge is growing.
And that's how exciting of a topic this is. Joseph, I see you called out in the chat. We're not the only ones excited about it. You got the animals are all riled up. They want to chime in too. I love it.
Yeah, I wish I could do some scientific knowledge on my dogs to figure out why they want to bark at the garbage truck.
We said we wanted participation.
We're doing it well.
I think they deserve a treat.
So interconnecting that data also unlocks those questions. In fact, if you've gone through and sat through these steps with me, you probably already have questions across a myriad levels of your organization. Like which partners are likely to grow, which campaigns will underperform, which co-op rules will maximize KPIs. I will say, I think we underemphasize the need for questions, and we hold ourselves back from asking questions because we don't want to create extra cost or heartache. But these are really the source of growth for our business. And the analytics teams genuinely love questions because it enables them to do their job better. And then finally, if we are able to emphasize a team that is building the knowledge of the business, testing hypotheses, growing the knowledge through a learning agenda, then they can close the loop. They're building that back into growth. They're building those data back into variations and iterations of those hypotheses. And they're developing products that have roadmaps so that we can evolve our business together, perhaps in that data mesh architecture we talked about. So how would we move from all these great concepts you've talked about, Eric, to just getting started? What's the first step to even engage this? Well, there are a lot of ways to get started with us, and we'd be happy to discuss those with you. But let's take a look at one solution we call our connected analytics audit. We would start with mapping your ecosystem and understanding what are your measurement gaps. And again, finding out where those measurement touch points happen. Where's the data set? Where does it live? Who owns it? Who manages it? Then we might find 1 to 2 cases where we really want to make a change, where we want to set a future that's different than what it is right now. Perhaps we want to understand co-op differently, or build a better partner portal, or understand a certain funnel of service or customer interaction. We want to make a change to those experiences. And so we set the scientific method unleashed. We set up hypotheses and we start to build those tests that we want to execute. We then might define who does what in building those out. We would say, where are those jobs and what are your partners, quote unquote, hiring your analytics teams to do? What are they asking you for? We can even go so far as to do true interviews with those partners to capture their needs and their requests, because ultimately we're not going to succeed unless the data has value in the hands of the end user. And finally, we can say, where this audit gives us a definition of the gaps and the future we want to create, and how different solutions like the Ansira platform and our services to go with it might fill those gaps. There are lots of places where we can provide a solution that's not just a plug and play monolithic piece of software, but it comes with the services of teams like mine that wrap around our platform to engage what you already have and where you want to go. And if I could talk a little bit about how our analytics team sees the Ansira platform, we of course want to start with the principles of your business first. But second, this platform enables my team to execute analytics and provide those forecasts and outcomes more rapidly than ever before. We're able to understand every single action because it's standardized within this platform and centralized within our data stores. So if your team needs to create standardized, measurable experiences and assets at scale, Ansira Create can enable that and provide inputs to measurement. If you want to have a connected fund and incentive program, Ansira Incent can enable that and generate the rich behavioral data that we need to activate certain segments, certain partners, and certain opportunities. If you want to orchestrate that into media activation, that's where Ansira Attract takes place. And that's where we can also integrate the media performance with the outcomes we're seeing in these other platform tools. And then finally, if you have actual customers you want to connect with in an individual level or centralize your partner data, all of that can happen inside of Ansira Connect, which again unlocks my team to be able to interact with that data, to segment, to threshold, to provide benchmarks against all of your different partner and prospect audiences. So where our platform really fits is providing that aligned strategy and technology and team all at once to create that one connected ecosystem. It's not the only solution to fragmentation, but it is a really solid solution to many challenges of fragmentation, and can give you a leg up on some of those challenges we've talked about throughout this presentation. And I think with that, we can kick to Q&A.
All right. He's right. Audience participation time. Now, Eric, take a breath, get a drink. I tried to give him some chances for that throughout, but I think I did a better job of just interrupting his flow when he was speaking. So, Eric, thank you so much for the information you shared. Very insightful. Now, this is your chance to dig into everything that he's shared so far. So maybe you want to go deeper on something that he walked through, whether that's measurement touch points, connecting partner data, forecasting insights, or how this kind of analytic approach actually plays out in the real world. Whatever's on your mind, we would love to hear it. So drop your questions in the chat. I have a couple here. In the interest of time, we'll start off with a couple that I already have, and if we get someone in the chat, we'll roll through those as well. So, Eric, are more customer touch points a bad thing for businesses?
I don't think so. Marketing tends to succeed when it amplifies and leans into existing customer behaviors. And so when we can engage a customer in things that they already want to do, those touch points tend to be the best outcomes possible. I think we won't necessarily see a benefit just from creating more touch points for their own purpose, just to say that we have more and more ways to interact.
Mm.
But if we're engaging a customer in a way that they want to interact, then we might be best served by creating those touch points to enable that. I think these voice assistants and chat assistants are an excellent example of that. Many brands raced to, for example, Domino's lets you order pizza via Alexa. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and it can be a valuable thing for showing what kind of brand you are and what kind of business you want to be. But if customers don't want to order pizza that way, then they probably won't. And then you've got a touch point that may or may not be benefiting your overall growth in terms of revenue. Again, brand impact aside. But there are many ways that analytics can provide insight to whether a new touch point is valuable also. So we can show you where customers are getting stuck, or we can use data to understand where customers are leaning into maybe mobile or AI agents. And those would enable us to provide some kind of input before we ever build out something, and could even help us model out a potential future for that touch point.
So, in thinking of those touch points, is it best to plan to market across all of those customer touch points, or is it just select a few? Like your point, the Alexa one, maybe you're not seeing the right uh, reaction to that. Should you put more marketing into it, or just focus on other areas?
Well, first, I think those are all good questions to be tested. None of us know for a given business exactly what that outcome would be. So let's test it. Let's try different things and let's truly build out our hypotheses. And as I mentioned, run them through that scientific method to build our knowledge overall. But if we think about, let's say, ROI is just having a certain goal, desiring a certain outcome. And we ask ourselves, what are the actions we can take to get to that outcome we want to see? If we've done a good job of centralizing our definitions, then when we say we want more leads, we all know what that means. And therefore, we can ask ourselves, how are these touch points succeeding or not based on how they achieve those certain goals? And whether the incremental effort and energy spent on those touch points would actually drive that outcome we want to see.
Excellent. And I will ask one more. We're running low on time, but I will ask one more here because I think this is an important one. What should be step one for businesses that don't have any data measurement tools or dashboards today?
Yeah, I think the first question is how are you making decisions right now? I encounter many clients that have what I'll call trophy numbers. These are numbers that you use to report your success upward to your superiors. And those numbers may or may not be based on something we would all consider valid, but they're useful because they describe what the business is looking for, where we are seeking to move our business forward. I also like to ask about overall company plans. What are your goals for the year? What are your OKRs for the year? So that we can know what are the lines in the sand that your business is drawn to begin with. Second, I love to ask, of the things you have that show data to you, which ones do you open that attachment immediately, or flip to that page of the report immediately, or you have that certain link bookmarked constantly? When you're using those data sources frequently and check them often, that's a signal to you that these data points are valuable in your business, in your execution. Go look at those and interrogate, why do I value these data points? And how can they be smarter for me in not just waiting for me to show up and check them, but perhaps alerting me before changes happen so that I can make better decisions in real time.
Excellent. All right. So, again, in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and leave it with those questions there. If you have additional questions, please feel free to throw them out to us. or in just a couple slides ahead, we have a QR code where you can reach out to us as well. So we'll go ahead and if we want to jump to the next slide, please. Before we wrap up for the day, we do want to call out that we have another webinar coming up soon. So I want to invite you to join us for our next Ansira webinar, a conversation with Forrester. So this is going to be happening on April 16th at 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll take a look at the current state of partner marketing, explore the growing importance of context and consultative guidance, as well as shifts in buyer expectations and consumer trust. So join us then, April 16th, 11 a.m., a conversation with Forrester. And finally, as we wrap up, our biggest takeaway today isn't just about dashboards or data. It's really about ownership and alignment. When you start with measurement from touch points that you control, and then responsibly connect partner and third-party data around that, you're going to create a foundation that teams can actually put trust into and then act on. What we've shared today is meant to be practical, not theoretical. So it's ideas that you can take back, you can pressure test, and adapt to your own organization. Building a connected analytic approach doesn't happen all at once. It starts with establishing the right measurement points, defining your data clearly, and then gradually activating those insights to support better forecasting and smarter decisions. So as Eric walked through, the real opportunity comes when As Eric walked through with us, the real opportunity comes when analytics stops being a static report and starts becoming something that scales with your business, helping your teams move faster, stay aligned, and make more confident decisions. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today. We're excited to continue the conversations, whether that's answering follow-up questions, digging deeper into the approach, or helping you think through what those next steps might look like for your organization.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.